A young couple had just gotten married, and they spent their wedding night doing what most newlyweds do, celebrating their love. Again and again. All night long. The next morning, the husband hopped in the shower while his new bride relaxed in bed. When he finished, he realized he had forgotten to grab a towel. "Sweetheart," he called out, "can you bring me a towel, please?" She walked over to the bathroom with the towel in hand. When he opened the door to take it, there he stood, dripping wet and completely exposed. Her eyes widened as she glanced down, then back up, then back down, and stopped halfway. With a puzzled look, she pointed and asked, "Wait, what's that?" He hesitated, slightly embarrassed, and replied, "That's what we had so much fun with last night." She paused, looked even more confused, and asked innocently, "Oh, is that all that's left?" So Silly Billy was driving, and he had a door on the roof of his car. A police officer pulled him over. "Police officer? Where are you taking this door?" Billy. "Oh, I am taking it to the locksmith." "Police? What? Why?" Billy. "Oh, I lost my key and I need to unlock the lock." Officer laughed a bit and asked police, "What if a thief gets into your house?" Billy. "No one can get in my house. I got the door right here." The phone bill was unusually high, so the man of the house decided to call a family meeting. "Dad, this is outrageous. I barely use the home phone. I always use my work phone." Mom. "Same here. I hardly touch the home phone. I use my company's phone for everything." Son. "I don't even use the home phone. I have a cell from my office." They all turned to the maid, who's been quietly listening to their conversation. Maid. "What's the problem? We all use our work phones, so what's the big deal?" An old married couple are sitting on their porch one morning, when suddenly the old lady lashes out with her cane and hits her husband on the knee. "Ow! What did you do that for?" he asked. "That's for 60 years of bad love." He stewed in silence a few moments, rubbing his knee. All of a sudden, he took his cane and thumped his wife on her knee. "Ow! What's that for?" "That's for knowing the difference." In heaven, there were two huge signs. The first read, "Men who did what their wives told them to do." The line of men under this sign stretched as far as the eye could see. The second sign stated, "Men who did what they wanted to do." Only one man stood under that sign. Intrigued, St. Peter said to the lone man, "No one has ever stood under this sign. Tell me about yourself." The man shrugged and said, "My wife told me to stand here." My grandson came home from school, said the teacher was teaching numbers. She asked him, "What come after 69? Well, apparently mouthwash was the wrong answer. His mother said, "I can no longer tutor him." Bob came home drunk one night, slid into bed beside his sleeping wife, and fell into a deep slumber. He awoke before the pearly gates, where St. Peter said, "You died in your sleep, Bob." Bob was stunned. "I'm dead? No, I can't be. I've got too much to live for. Send me back." St. Peter said, "I'm sorry, but there's only one way you can go back, and that is as a chicken." Bob was devastated but begged St. Peter to send him to a farm near his home. The next thing he knew, he was covered with feathers, clucking and pecking the ground. A rooster strolled past. "So you're the new hen, huh? How's your first day here?" "Not bad," replied Bob the hen, "but I have this strange feeling inside, like I'm gonna explode." "You're ovulating," explained the rooster. "Don't tell me you've never laid an egg before." "Never," said Bob. "Well, just relax and let it happen," says the rooster. "It's no big deal." Bob did, and a few uncomfortable seconds later, out popped an egg. Bob was overcome with emotion as he experienced motherhood. He soon laid another egg. His joy was overwhelming. As he was about to lay his third egg, he felt a smack on the back of his head and heard his wife saying to him, "Bob, wake up! You're pooping the bed!" Wake. One sunny morning, a man came back to the cabin after hours of fishing and decided to take a nap. His wife, enjoying the peace, thought she'd take the boat out. Not to fish, just to relax, float, and read her book in the sunshine. She dropped the anchor a short distance from shore and opened her novel. Enter the Lake Patrol officer. He pulled up beside her boat and said, "Good morning, ma'am. Can I ask what you're doing out here?" "Reading," she said without looking up. He raised an eyebrow. "Well, this area is off limits for fishing." "I'm not fishing. I'm reading." "Yes, but you've got a fishing rod, a tackle box, and bait. You could be fishing at any moment." She looked up calmly and replied, "If that's how we're playing this, then if you don't leave, I'll have to report you for harassment." He blinked. "I haven't even touched you." She smiled. "True, but you could, at any moment." He left. Quickly. A Catholic priest was on his deathbed in the hospital. He quietly asked the nurse to bring him a Nigerian police officer and a politician. Within minutes, both men arrived and sat on either side of his bed, deeply moved and honored to be called during the priest's final moments. They sat in silence for a while, holding the priest's hands. Eventually, the politician, overcome with curiosity, asked, "Father, why did you choose us?" The priest gathered his remaining strength, took a breath, and said, "Jesus died between two thieves. I want to go the same way." Joey married one of a pair of identical twin girls. Less than a year later, he was in court filing for a divorce. "Okay," the judge said. "Tell the court why you want a divorce." "Well, Your Honor," Joey started, "every once in a while my sister-in-law would come over for a visit, and because she and my wife are so identical looking, every once in a while I'd end up making love to her by mistake." "Surely there must be some difference between the two women," the judge said. "You'd better believe there is a difference, Your Honor." "That's why I want the divorce," he replied. A husband and wife were caught in a tense standoff, each refusing to speak to the other. That evening, the husband suddenly remembered he had an early morning business flight and needed his wife to wake him at 5 o'clock a.m. Determined not to be the first to break the silence and concede defeat, he wrote a note, "Please, wake me at 5 o'clock a.m. He placed it where he knew she would see it before bed. The next morning, he woke up to find the sun shining brightly. Glancing at the clock, he was horrified. It was 9 o'clock a.m., and he had missed his flight. Fuming, he turned to confront his wife, only to notice a piece of paper on his nightstand. It read, "It is 5 o'clock a.m. Wake up." 3 very different couples want to get married at the same church. There is a very young couple, a middle-aged couple, and an elderly couple of over 70. All 3 couples meet with the priest of the church to discuss when and how they can get married. "In order to get married in my church, I have one rule. You really have to go 1 month without making love," says the priest to the couples. After 1 month, all 3 couples return to the church to talk with the priest again. The priest starts with the young couple and asks them, "Did you make love in the last month after you came here first?" "No, we haven't. And it was very easy to our own surprise," replies the young couple. He then turned to the middle-aged couple. "How about you?" he asks the couple. "It was really hard, Father, but we didn't make love for the whole month," replies the middle-aged couple. "And how about the 2 of you?" he then asks the elderly couple. "I'm really sorry, Father, but we just couldn't make it till the end," responds the old man. "Not? Then please tell me why not," says the priest. "Well, Father, my woman had a can of soup in her hand when she accidentally dropped it on the floor, And when she bent over to pick it up again, well, that's when it happened, Father. The priest, still a bit in shock, then tells them, "I'm sorry, but in that case, you're not welcome in my church to get married." "We're also not welcome in the supermarket anymore either," says the old man. Two men left the bar after a long night of drinking, jumped in the car, and started it up. After a couple of minutes, an old man appeared in the passenger window and tapped lightly. The passenger screamed, "Look at the window! There's an old man ghost's face there." The driver sped up, but the old man's face stayed in the window. The passenger rolled his window down part way and, scared out of his wits, said, "What do you want?" The old man softly replied, "You got any tobacco?" The passenger handed the old man a cigarette and yelled, "Step on it," to the driver, rolling up the window in terror. A few minutes later, they calmed down and started laughing again. The driver said, "I don't know what happened, but don't worry, we're doing 80 now." All of a sudden, there was a light tapping on the window, and the old man reappeared. "There he is again," the passenger yelled. He rolled down the window and shakily said, "Yes? Do you have a light?" the old man quietly asked. The passenger threw a lighter out the window, saying, "Step on it!" They were flooring it and going about 100 miles an hour, trying to forget what they had just seen and heard, when all of a sudden there came some more tapping. "Oh my God, he's back!" The passenger rolled down the window and screamed in stark terror, "What now?" The old man gently replied, "You want some help getting out of the mud?" Beverly, 90 years young, had played golf every single day since her retirement 25 years ago. But one evening, she returned home looking unusually downcast. "That's it," she told her husband Gus. "I'm giving up golf. My eyesight has gotten so bad that once I hit the ball, I can't see where it goes." Gus, who was a remarkable 103 years old, made her a comforting cup of tea and said, "Why don't you take me along and give it one more try?" Beverly sighed. "That's no good," she replied. "You're 103. What help could you possibly be?" Gus straightened up proudly and said, "I may be 103, but my eyesight is perfect." The next day, Beverly reluctantly took Gus to the golf course. She teed up, took a powerful swing, and squinted down the fairway. Turning to Gus, she asked, "Did you see the ball?" "Of course I did," Gus replied confidently. "I told you, my eyesight is perfect." "Great," said Beverly, feeling a surge of hope. "So where did it go?" Gus paused for a moment, then scratched his head. "I don't remember." He glances around the room before settling into a seat beside a strikingly beautiful woman. Giving her a brief look, he casually checks his watch. Noticing this, the woman raises an eyebrow and asks, "Expecting someone?" He smirks. "No, just testing out my new state-of-the-art watch, courtesy of Q." Intrigued, she leans in slightly. "Oh, and what makes it so special?" "It uses alpha waves to communicate with me telepathically," he explains. She chuckles. "Really? And what's it telling you now?" He grins. "It says you're not wearing any panties." The woman laughs and shakes her head. "Well, your fancy gadget must be malfunctioning, because I definitely am." Bond taps the watch, frowning slightly. Then, with a sly smile, he mutters, "Bloody thing's an hour fast." Fred was a hard-working farmer with a quiet soul and a wife who never stopped nagging. Day in and day out, she criticized everything he did. The only peace Fred ever found was out in his fields, tending to his crops and enjoying the company of his old, loyal mule. One afternoon, while Fred was out plowing, his wife brought him lunch. He sat down on a tree stump, silently thankful for the break. As he began to eat, she started in with her usual complaining, louder and harsher than ever. Before Fred could even respond, something unexpected happened. His old mule, standing a few feet away, suddenly reared up and kicked backward, striking Fred's wife in the head. She died instantly. At the funeral, Fred stood by the casket receiving condolences. The pastor, who had known the couple for years, noticed something curious. When women came up to Fred, he would nod politely. But when the men approached, he shook his head. After the service, the pastor, unable to contain his curiosity, pulled Fred aside. "Fred," he said gently, "I noticed something strange during the funeral. You nodded when the women spoke to you, but you shook your head when the men did. Why is that?" Fred gave a small, knowing smile and said, "Well, the women all told me how nice she looked and how peaceful she seemed, so I nodded in agreement, but the men—" He paused. "They all asked me the same thing. Is that mule for sale?"